Welcome to the Dog Training Audio Experience Podcast. This is the podcast where you are going to get a lot of value when it comes to learning more about dog training, dog behavior, and beyond. I'm your host, Erika Gonzalez. I'm a certified dog trainer and behavior consultant and the founder of From Dusk Till Dog. Real quick, before we jump into the podcast today, if you like this podcast or any of my online content and would like to support my content, please check out our Patreon support page at patreon.com/From Dusk Till Dog. And with that, let's jump into today's episode. Welcome to today's episode. Today we will be talking all about how much working with dog behavior issues is very different from your regular basic skills or basic obedience training. Here to share their story and chat about this topic with me is Steve Schwarz. He is the founder and president of Falkor and Rescue Friends, which is a nonprofit organization that serves as a sanctuary and rescue and provides assistance for dogs with behavioral issues that's located in Chicago, Illinois. So welcome to the show, Steve. I appreciate you being here.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
This is so cool. I love everything you're doing. I'm really excited to chat about some of what you're up to these days and what your mission is. So let's hop right into it. Can you tell us a little bit about your story and what caused you to start this organization?
Yeah, it was pretty much Saint. So, anyone that follows me all knows Saint. But, I was fostering for a rescue. They were little behavioral issues here and there. And they just, one after another, they were getting worse and worse. And then I had the opportunity to take on Saint. I didn't know anything about him. So when I found out about him, I thought he was adoptable. Everyone thought he was adoptable. And my girlfriend, Erika, told me before we got him, if he can't get adopted, we're keeping him, right? I was like, yeah, sure. All the while, she knew his whole entire story and didn't tell me. Wow. We got him. Yeah, it was pretty nuts, but we got him. I met him right away, instantly met him.
Okay.
And so did she, and came into the house, and it took slow intros with the dogs and all that stuff. But long story short, his behaviors started coming out. Was there a good chance that the trainer that had him medicated to meet me? Probably, because I've never been able to do it since. Okay. And the second or third day, I had him out. And since I met him, I thought he was trained. I thought he was good. Took him to Home Depot. Some guy wanted to give him a treat. And, well, that didn't go so well.
Yeah.
So it just became, I think it was about a year after that to where we wanted to get away from the rescue. I wanted to be able to do my own thing. Saint wasn't going anywhere. We did learn in that year that he's too dangerous of a dog for public. He's too dangerous of a dog to be adopted out. I'm even at that year moment, I was his longest home he's had. So I knew that I had to start my own organization, and I knew I had to, do something because I can't pay for all these dogs, myself.
Yeah, stuff's expensive. It's a lot of it.
I started that. And then eventually the rescue signed him over to me to be a sanctuary dog. He is the first sanctuary dog that we have. Yeah, I mean.
How old is he? About, I guess we never know, right? With
6,
some of these
7.
dogs. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
6 or 7.
Yeah.
He's the dog that, I mean, man, you could just hang out with him every day and be around him every day, but every so often, he shows you exactly why he is a dangerous dog. He's not just reactive. He's dangerous.
Yeah.
Even for me, I have to watch myself. So, but that's how it all started pretty much is that it just I didn't ask for behavioral dogs. It just happened.
They came to you.
They came.
The mission came to you. Yeah. There's plenty of them in the nicest way. There's a lot to go around to keep you busy, I'm sure.
Yeah, there is. And, the second half of the Falkor and Rescue Friends is behavior, is training. I, by all means, don't know everything, but I myself couldn't afford anything. So I had to learn. I had to figure it out. And I went through so many wrong things in my, whole dog training this, dog training that in the beginning.
It's a journey.
It's a journey. It really
is. It really is for all of us.
To learn how much bad information is out there and how things are being done incorrectly, it's very sad,
Yeah, I feel bad for those. Like, I mean, we've all been there. I still don't know everything either, like,
Yeah.
we're always learning. I think people who work with dogs and train dogs and dog trainers, we're all trying to do better as we really care at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Any good trainer is really just always trying to evolve and adapt to everything. And with behavioral stuff, it's never clear cut. It's never a specific recipe like baking a cake where it's going to come out the right way. You have to like really flow with it. So it takes
Never.
someone with a big heart to do what you're doing and to put
Yeah.
in that effort. So I'm glad to hear
Thanks.
I mean, Saint really, that reminds me of Jade. Like Jade's the reason why I'm here doing what I'm doing. And it sounds like Saint
Yeah.
was your buddy to kind of push you to do all of this as well.
I mean, he without a doubt, and nobody ever wants to have this conversation, and maybe it's another podcast conversation for you and I to do, but
Sure.
euthanasia
Yeah.
should have been euthanized. I mean, he is the very, prime candidate for it, but we've managed it and we've gotten to do some things and we've laid some, foundations for him to go off of. And he lives a great life. Like he's like a normal dog.
Yeah, you're giving him a good life. I'm glad that you said that. Thank you for being, I mean, I don't know if this is the right word, but I would say it is like brave enough to say that, because I think it's bringing up euthanasia and putting a dog down that is dangerous, that could be dangerous in specific situations. It's a sometimes taboo topic for people. It's a very sensitive issue, of course, and working in behavior, it is something that sometimes is on the table, that you have to have these discussions or thoughts or like think through what might be, because when you're dealing with dangerous dogs, it's sometimes, like, again, like you said, I don't think Saint in a regular person's house that doesn't understand dog behavior at the length that you do in your household would be able to be okay. Like it would be more dangerous of a situation.
Yeah.
So it's lucky he's with you.
Super high risk. He's high risk to the public. He's high risk, even just to me, he's a risk to me. And, I don't want to say I know what I'm doing, but I know what I'm doing, and he's still a risk.
Yeah. I totally empathize with that for sure. And I appreciate you saying that, because I think some folks are sometimes, and I've had, discussions with clients that have maybe not as high risk as Saint in that situation, but like, bite risks and other things that might happen. I'm like, listen, this takes a special household, a special individual, or a special family to really commit to this. Otherwise, you're really going to be in danger with certain things. Yeah. So taking that on is tough, and it is a big decision that people should really think it through. So I'm glad that you said that.
But that's where it's at, as far as how it got going and why it's behavioral dogs and why I got so focused on training. It just, no one has the money to do it a lot of the times. And then, the behavioral dogs just came to me. That's how that started. It just happened. I didn't choose. I
didn't choose this. It chose me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
How long has it been in existence now?
2018, I think.
Oh, wow.
2018 is when I started. 2018 or I think it's
a couple years now then.
Yeah.
That's cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
So I'm sure you see a lot of different things. I'm sure when we work in behavior, which I've been doing a lot of behavior the latter part of my career, like several years, just doing that. Although I'd have some puppies and other things sprinkled in, behavior became kind of my specialty area or whatever. But you see a lot of different things, and I'm never shocked anymore after seeing so much. I'm sure, dogs keep you guessing. So what is some of the biggest behavioral challenges that you've been facing recently with dogs, or like that stick out to you in your rescue and your organization?
With the dogs that are in my organization, it's mostly the things that's a tough one. That's a really tough one, because I already know what's going to happen. I guess we go to the beginning, thinking what's up is an issue.
Yeah.
That's a big thing that, I guess I want to say more stick out about me and people versus what sticks out about the dog. Not catching a trigger, me not seeing that person a block away, me not seeing the other dog that's 20 feet behind me. Right. That's the biggest thing that sticks out to me, because regardless if your dog has been doing behavioral training for 3 years, you still know that that's a possibility. So it's, I've learned the biggest thing in behavioral issues is the moment you relax, the moment you think you've done the work, and the moment you think this is going to be okay is when something bad happens. And it's not like a little something bad. No, it's something really bad. A dog fight, you get yourself attacked by your own dog, or, you know, another person gets bit, you know, or a little kid's walking by and you think that your leave it is so strong and it's not. And that dog reaches out and snap. It's just,
now you have a problem.
It's more about us. That's the one thing that I learned, you know, very early on with Saint and very early on with a couple of dogs, is that I need to pay attention to my own self more than I need to pay attention to the dog.
Oh my God, I'm so glad you just said that. It's such a big thing. It's such a big thing is you know, and of course, like for those listening, I don't, you know, it's not that when we say it's more on the person, we're not saying this is your fault, but we are saying that it's up to you now. Like it's not up to the dog to be aware of all this. We know what the dog's going to do if they are reactive or stressed or aggressive or bite risk or whatever, like you just said. It's up to us when we go outside of our house and that dog's on leash attached to us. It's on the person to be aware of a kid coming around, like be aware of the other dog that's across the street, of the nosy neighbor that comes out and wants to say hi to you every day at the end of the driveway and all that jazz. So, you know, it can seem like a lot, but when you have a dog that has behavioral issues, that's what it is. It's like having a kid that has special needs or a kid that needs extra attention with certain things, like that has anxiety or that has an issue. Like you have to pay attention to that stuff. It's up to you as the quote unquote parent. And I do think, you know, we're dogs kind of pet parents, like we're their guide through life. So I'm glad that you touched on that, because it is like a special situation. The dog, it is kind of like a special needs kind of thing with dogs, that even if a dog has like a missing limb or some other type of ailment, you have to do certain things. For an elderly dog, you have to adjust. And so if a dog has anxiety or triggers, you have to adjust to that as well, and make sure you're meeting them where they're at, so to speak. So I think that's important to touch on that.
It is. I mean, even, you know, me doing Saint or any other dog, you know, that's within our organization, we do them all day long, every day, right? Every weekend we do stuff. You know, for example, I've had somebody that helps take care of Saint. She doesn't have to touch him. She doesn't have to do anything, but she can let him out of his kennel. He's got an indoor-outdoor kennel, hands-free, so no one has, but Saint was at a really good point with her. And I decided to have no muzzle and a leash on him and just see where his, you know, to see where he was at. But I didn't take into consideration, we were in the driveway, not the backyard where we had been practicing everything. There was another person involved that's never been around. There was the car that was running in the driveway. It wasn't shut off. So there was like so many things stacked against him. And sure enough, he went into attack her, you know, and she fell on the ground and whatnot. And he didn't get her, but that was on me. Like, that was my fault at not looking at those triggers and putting that into perspective. All I thought about was how well he was doing in the backyard and all the things we've been laying down, you know. So had we been in the backyard, that might have gone perfect, but it didn't go well at all. So, you know, that was on me. That wasn't on Saint.
Hey, the environmental things, I love all these points you're bringing up, because they're all, I'm like, yes, preach, because it's a shitty situation that happens, you know, but you're like saying what you learned from it can help other people when they're dealing with whatever it is you're dealing with your dog, of saying, okay, why did this happen? How do I prevent this from happening again? What do I have to change? Because I always say, like, dog change happens when behavior of the human changes first.
100%.
So, like you were saying before, it's on us. So I love that you can, in the best way, like, take responsibility. I always say everything's my fault. And when you do that, it does give you a sense of, and again, like a good way, like control over the situation. Because if we blame the dog, it's like, all right, well, now what the hell do we do? I have to change it. But I love that you said the car running. We're in a different context and environments out front now, not in the back where he was used to practicing. All those variables matter, whether you're teaching your dog to come when called or whether you're dealing with a behavioral problem. If you change up context and there's other triggers, you're going to have potentially a harder time with it, or something that might happen and go wrong. So those are all things people should be thinking about.
And that's a big thing too, is just people don't realize how to break those things down. Like they don't see anything wrong, but I mean, it can be as small as, it was 10 a.m. versus 6 p.m.
Yep. Time.
That could be the biggest difference,
Absolutely.
And people don't see that. I didn't see it. I didn't see it a long time ago. Now I do. Now I try to, these are all the things that I think of when it comes to training a dog, and it's like, sometimes when you show up at somebody's house, you kind of feel dumb. Like, here, just do a watch me. Let's do a hide cue. Let's do these, 3 or 4 things.
Yeah.
You feel like you went over there and didn't do anything. And you're leaving, you're like, gosh, did I do anything good for these people? And then like a day later or even hours later or 3 days later, you get a text like, oh my gosh, my dog is totally different. This helps so much. And literally you did nothing for the dog. You did it for the people.
The people. Yes. Yes. That's so true. I have felt like that so many times. I'm like, I don't know. I wish I had 3 more hours there to go through all of this.
Yes.
And we always want to like do more. And I feel like that's a great quality for dog trainers. And I'm always trying to, when I'm mentoring like up and coming trainers, I'm always like, it's okay. Like less is more. Like people don't understand all these concepts. They need a couple little nuggets to hold on to for that week or that couple weeks while you're working through the beginnings of it, and you'll build, so it is so much for the people, because again, the training kind of goes through the humans that the dog's going to be around. So I feel the same way. I've definitely been like, I didn't do anything, but the people feel like I gave them all of this lovely stuff. And I'm like, I need more. I totally understand that. Yeah. And on that point, like working with people and trying to address some of these issues, and we're working on a watch me, or we're just kind of evaluating the dog, or showing the people timing, like basic stuff, like timing of delivery of food, or delivery of like reinforcement as play, or whatever it is that we're trying to help them with. I think a lot of people, and this is out there on the internet, it's talked about. I know as trainers, we hear this a lot, that people confuse their dog's behavioral issue sometimes with the fact that, oh, my dog just needs, quote unquote, obedience style training. They need to learn to listen. They need to learn to, follow what I'm asking them, and although, yes, I think that's important that your dog knows skills, and I'll have you elaborate on that. But what's the difference with behavioral issues versus basic skills and obedience stuff? Why do you think people misunderstand the two and kind of put them together, that they're associated in that way?
Man, there's so many things that play into this, but we'll probably go off on a tangent.
That's here, okay. But, we got time.
let's say now, I think it's gotten worse in the past, I don't know, let's just say 5 years, it's gotten a lot worse. And why has it gotten a lot worse? Because of social media and social media groups. You can literally hop on what's happening in my town, whatever town you live in, what's happening in my town group, and say, my dog's having issues with this. I need, a trainer. Yeah. And then everybody and everyone, this person's the best. This person's the greatest. They do this and they do that. And then here I am reading through these comments and you're seeing, let's just say you have a balanced trainer or, prong or e-collar trainer. And they, you got the 3-week package or the month-long package. You pay the $2,500 to get the dog, trained. The whole time you show up there thinking you're getting these behavioral issues worked out. You're not. You're getting basic obedience, sit, stay, down, no, off, all that crap. And they haven't even touched the behavior issues. And then the people think that their dog is better because their dog is listening to them, when you've actually just suppressed that behavior that they're doing. And then maybe it's a couple weeks after the dog's home. Maybe it's 3 months after the dog's home. And then once you get past 3 months, the behavior comes out in another way, or it comes out on a different person. And then they think, I have no idea where this is coming from. Yep. And they never go back to the obedience training from a snap of the collar. They never correlate this newfound anxiety the dog has to the snaps collar. And then I love the other one. He did so good, or she did so good at the training facility in place all day. Never went after another dog. Yeah. Well, it was avoiding the shock, or it was avoiding the snap of the prong collar. That's why it never went out. It wasn't allowed to. Right. We never changed. We never did any behavior, modification or counter conditioning. Yeah. We never changed the dog's feelings about other dogs. We suppressed them. So I don't understand why basic obedience facilities and basic obedience trainers are taking on behavioral cases. because I'm literally the Happy Gilmore of dog training. Like that's what I would say I am. I'm the happy. I don't know shit.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm watching all these dogs like just getting screwed up left and right.
Yep.
And the you know, and then the people feel bad. Then they're out, you know, anywhere from 25 to $5,000. It's like, look, this wasn't your fault. You had a good sales pitch. You needed a behavioral consultant, or you needed behavioral help, not basic obedience.
Exactly.
You know, and I think when we can finally get to the point of the regular public or your average person knowing there's a difference between behavior and training, I think that's when it'll slow down. But there's too many people saying, go to this person, and they don't even know what they're talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and I love that you point out like these groups, like the internet. It's a wonderful place. It's also a trash dump of stuff where you're going to get information, and it's difficult. Like I always empathize with clients and people I talk to, because I'm like, listen, if I wasn't a dog trainer, I'd be friggin' lost. I'd have no idea what the hell I should be doing. And I know we're going to get into this in a moment as well, but I love the, you know, your candor about, like of course, if a dog, if we have a dog on a shock collar, prong collar, whatever, you know, I always tell people it can work. I mean, of course, like the dog's gonna, you know, it can get you the dog to stay. I could get you the dog to not attack the other dog right there, because they, like you said, they are not dumb. They're aware if they go to do this, they're going to feel something really uncomfortable, and it has to be uncomfortable in order to stop the behavior. Because if it wasn't uncomfortable, then it'd be rainbows and they would still attack the dog because they don't care. So, you know, I think it's important to have people understand that they're avoiding, and that can work, quote unquote work, but also, you know, I always say this. Here's a great example for those listening. If you're using, let's say, it doesn't matter, whatever, shock collar, prong collar, choke chain, whatever, right? Your dog's walking, and we're looking for the dog to not lunge and want to kill this other dog across the street. And you walk by and you start, you know, popping the collar or hitting the thing because they're starting to get tense.
Right.
And we get by. The dog doesn't actually lunge or do anything. I go, great. Well, we got the dog to not do this. But do they now all of a sudden look at another dog and be like, I love seeing other dogs now? Like that doesn't change how they feel about it, like you said. So our job, and I think where the big difference lies, is that, you know, it can seem like a little more work, or it can seem like a little bit less immediate progress in the moment, but we're really there to help change the dog's perception, feelings, emotions about these potential triggers, or at least help them decrease the amount of stress or decrease the amount of reaction that they're having, or replace it with something different so they don't have to deal with it that way. And so I'm glad that you brought that up again. So I think that's interesting. I will say one other thing too about the obedience and basic stuff. Mm-hmm. You know, when I work with people with this, like behavioral stuff, I've had aggressive dogs, I've had bite risk cases, and I immediately want to address like management and how to start having the dog feel a little better about some things. But yeah, of course, I'm going to still in the middle of that work with the dog on some look at me or some type of, you know, stimulus control, like patience or just whatever. Like I want to start helping people understand how to like basic communication with their dog, which can lie in some basic skills. But to our point with this question, what we're trying to say here, just to be clear with everybody, is a behavioral issue will not be solved by going to obedience training or doing basic skills.
Yeah.
Basic skills is a part of life. Your dog should know it. It helps you connect with them and they can focus on you. It's going to help your training on the behavioral stuff, but it's not the answer. And it's not the first thing you should be going right into just on that for weeks on end.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny because if you watch my stories or you watch some of my posts, you know, I have a lot of behavioral dogs, but yet Millie, for example, you'll see Millie up on top of my table, getting toys down from my table.
Yeah.
Like people are like, well, dog, what is she's not trained? I'm like, but did she bite you?
Exactly.
No, she didn't.
Exactly. One thing at a time.
Like, you know, like in the very beginning, you know, Millie was attacking my hands when I would go get the ball to throw it. And now you can see in the story, she doesn't attack my hands anymore. She drops it and waits. And we didn't like do anything crazy. All we did is, you know, quick treat when she left the ball alone, and it was a done deal, matter of a few days or maybe a week. And now she comes up like today, completely forgot all my treats when I took her to the dog park at 5:30 a.m. and didn't have any issues. She dropped it, waited, got the ball, but like I didn't do anything. I just played with the dog.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is once people learn that training behavioral issues can be done with play, that's where, that's another way I feel stupid. I'm just showing you how to play with your dog and its issues. I'm not really trained.
I know, it's like, all right, he's playing tug with my dog or playing fetch. Like, what's happening? Yeah. But I always say a lot of the answer, I think this is important to add to that. Like, I think when people are like, well, what do I do? Like, I'm like, honestly, the answer at the basic level, I'm like, the answer is some type of reinforcement. Like, whether that's a toy, playtime, access, food, like the answer is always one or some of those. And that's just, we have to figure out how to do that. But like, that's the answer. It's pretty easy when you bring it down to that level of it. But
it is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I'm glad we're touching on all this because I think this is stuff that people don't realize all the time are at their disposal to help work with their dog and communicate with their dog. And less is more sometimes. Like, it's sometimes just about
way
connecting.
more.
Yeah.
Way more.
Yeah.
If more becomes the key ingredient, then we have missed so many steps. We've missed so many communication cues from our dog. Like it's never more. It's always less. Because like
less is more.
Once you get people to understand, everything needs to be broken down smaller and smaller. If it's not working, we need to break it down even smaller.
Yes. Yeah. Like go back another step, like break it down. It's like molecular level.
Yeah. It's so crazy. It's so crazy.
Yeah. And can you share like your experience with, because I know, in the beginning, you were telling me, offline, and also I know you kind of alluded to it earlier of just like, I think you've been in every area of training it, like either trying it or being around it, in your life and your journey with training, as we've all had a journey with it and getting to where we are now. Can you share a little bit about your experience with the impact of like using positive training methods have had on the dogs that you're working with and like significant behavioral issues and stuff like that?
Again, Saint was the biggest deal. So everyone that watches Falkor, and I've even called myself out on this before, but in the very beginning, 6 years ago, I didn't know shit about dogs. I didn't know anything. I knew I wanted a dog. I knew that I wanted him to be trained. I wanted him to be off leash. I wanted him to listen to me. Oh, how ugly does that sound right now?
Yeah. But, listen to me. But hey, it's nice if they can.
When he was 4 months old, because the place said that's when the dog can start retaining the information that they do for training, I was like, okay. And the sales pitch was phenomenal. Phenomenal. Of course. So I dropped him off every day from, 8 a.m. until 4 p.m, Monday through Thursday. And they, trained him and things went well on an e-collar and a prong collar for 2 months. I had him on the weekends and at night, and everything went well. So I had my trained Falkor and we went out in public and, I do remember them saying it'll get worse before it gets better. And you just have to work with your dog. So your dog gets used to, you doing it. Right. Which they are kind of right with that. You got to, whatever. So I went out every day, him and I spent every day. The training was phenomenal. So here I am going around town for, 2 years or so.
Okay.
Or whatever it is with an e-collar and a prong collar. I thought that was the way.
Yeah.
And then, and everyone thought he was amazing. Well, whatever. But Saint came into the world and he was with a positive reinforcement trainer for 4 months. In boarding and training, and he was abused with an e-collar and a prong collar. So that wasn't an option when he came to me.
Yeah.
And that was a big part of the reason why I said yes, because it was, you will have access to this trainer while you foster him. And I was like, positive reinforcement. Okay. I'm all on board just so because I didn't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And, once I started learning about it and getting into it, that was the only way for Saint.
Yeah.
So I had to learn about it. I had to read about it. I had to have questions answered. I had to get into it. And I mean, to see what Saint can do versus what Falkor can do and how we got there, Falkor is an asshole. He is a hard dog to train. So learning that after you have that balance training or that negative punishment training done, to bring in positive reinforcement and try to outgrow some of those things. Oh, it is so hard.
Yeah.
But to have Saint, who was, I guess, forgiving enough to where he took on the positive reinforcement really well. I mean, Saint will weave in and out of my legs. He'll go onto a bite pillow. He'll do all that stuff to where you see these guys using, shot collars and e-collars, and Saint's better than them. Yeah. So it's like, not only that, we can go. I mean, today I just did some weaving out of the legs and some fetch and all that stuff with him. We haven't done anything in months, and it's still spot on.
There.
Still
it's
right
like
there.
Programmed.
Yeah, and from one of the, from several of the studies that's been from positive reinforcement, it's there. Like it'll always be there. Versus, Falkor, for instance, he sucks on leash. He's all this and all that. You almost have to retrain everything every time because there's no longer the punishment. He doesn't get punished now,
right?
And that was a huge thing. That's a big thing that stuck out for me. Is like there's always punishment there, and then we go over here to positive reinforcement to where it's always getting the good behavior is always getting reinforced. So the dog actually is trying to
get
do
there.
The behavior. You don't even want your dog to do it, and your dog's like, "Hey man,
I'm doing it. So here it is.
Yeah, I'm doing it. Like, look at this. And then if you're not paying attention and you're not getting a treat and you're not asking for anything, they'll run through all their behaviors.
Yeah, like here's everything.
Everything, man. Where's my treat? So it's really cool to see how simple and easy positive reinforcement can be, and then how it can be for a behavioral dog. Like to watch a behavioral dog, going crazy and just going nuts, and you just bring out a stupid clicker and some treats, and all of a sudden you're getting like 20 feet away from a dog, 10 feet away from a dog, side by side dog, and it's going very well. How ridiculous is that? How ridiculous that $5 worth of treats and a $2 clicker,
can make a difference like that.
Huge difference, and the one thing that I'm focusing on lately, and I don't know if it's because we've all been cooped up for a year or whatnot, but I'm getting focused on a lot of people on the balance side downing us for positive reinforcement and showing how they look at the kind of dogs we take. You don't see their answer is euthanasia, and all I can sit here and think about is like Saint and Hansen and Corinne. Like wait a second, I've got some very nasty dogs here. They listen to me. We go out in public, we do things like normal dogs do, and I'm not using anything but food. So I don't know. It's
I understand that struggle. I think it's just from being home and then like TikTok and going on like these apps where there's like, I actually have to put like, don't show me this so I don't get dog content. Cause I'm like, I just can't, I can't do it. I can't. So I go on, I see my skincare and that shit. I'm like, I'm great. Like dancing and skincare. Woohoo. Cause I can't look at the dog stuff anymore because it will just drain my life out of me. I get over thresholds with that stuff, but and I'll to go off of that too, like, I always say dogs are usually, you can train your dog one of two ways. You have basically two options. You can have them try to avoid pain and discomfort and fear and intimidation type stuff, or you can, have them seeking reinforcement and seeking positive stuff from you that they want. I was like, you pick, like it's on you what you pick, but I will always pick the side that's going to help my dog seek reinforcement because knowing what I know now, of course, I didn't always know this. It works and you don't have some of the side effects that you can have from some of the other stuff and the fallout that happens from it, where the fallout for this is like, maybe your dog goes through the whole repertoire, if you will, of all their stuff and jumping around, doing all the behaviors and stuff. But, I think at the end of the day, everyone who has worked for somebody, has had a boss, a relationship, a friendship, whatever, you always prefer the person that is trying to point out some of the good that you're doing and maybe redirect correct and motivate you to make better decisions on the stuff you're not doing correctly. But I've had bosses and things in my past before I worked for myself, thank God. But I've had bosses that were, you know, jerks or pointing things out and telling me how much this was wrong. And I'm like, oh, I freaking hate this place. Like, I don't want to come there. So it really bring it back to a human place where people can empathize. We all want somebody to help lead our day. And we're basically our dogs, like I said before, a life guide. We need to try our best they're doing the best they can. We just need to help them navigate it in a positive manner. And it's totally possible, as you're showing everybody through your channels, even with really high risk dogs, this works. It can happen. You can have your dog have a normal life if you put in the effort and you do all that stuff. But it's good to see that, you know, showing the results of that.
It's crazy. Like, you know, it's crazy that somebody will message me every now and then saying like, you gave me hope, like, or I was able to do this because of you. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I'm just out here playing with dogs, man. Like, I just have some mean ones, you know, like I got some jerks. Like, I'm like, it's great. I love it. I love that I'm helping people, or I love that people are keeping their dogs or they're finding another way. I've even had people join a mentorship program, Pet Harmony, because they saw that I was into it, and I'm failing miserably because I have too many dogs. Sorry, Emily. I'll be back soon.
If you're listening, Emily, we're sorry.
Yeah. So it's, you know, Emily Strong and Allie Bender are some great people. And the program they put together is phenomenal. And that's
great.
You know, to get a message saying I joined that program because of you. It's like, oh gosh, that's awesome. I wish I was in it too, like doing my best, but I'm not. I was like, once I get rid of some dogs, I'll be back. But no, it's cool to like, it's cool to be out there and do it and learn.
That's great.
But it's still so weird getting messages saying like, you helped me. I'm like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, I feel like that too. I'm like, ew, no, don't tell me that. I just feel like very awkward. I mean, it's in the most weird, self-deprecating way for me, but I'm like, oh no, like you figured it out on your own. You know, but it's so nice. It's so nice to get those messages and knowing that like your work that you're putting out is helping show people. Like that's what we're all trying to do, right? Is just help spreading the awareness and like, hey, this is possible. So I think that helps so many people. And you know, with what you're doing in your organization and all the, you know, I mean, I can't count the number of times that I've either had somebody like cold call me, like kind of, I never worked with them and they were just reaching out, has reached out and been like, my dog bit somebody, or my dog is, aggressive, or my dog has anxiety. I can't deal with it. We have to give him away. Do you have a sanctuary where I think sometimes what I'm getting at, to be blunt, is people have some like horrific thing that just happened and now they're ready to give the dog away. They'll reach out to like everybody locally, dog trainers, pet groomers, like everybody gets an email from this person. I don't blame them. They're trying to figure out what to do, but everybody gets an email. And they're basically trying to envision this dog that just bit their child is going to go to some heavenly, beautiful farmland place in the middle of like heaven. And their dog's going to run in a prairie and chase butterflies. Yeah. And I don't mean to sound like an asshole to say that, but I'm saying like, yes, would that be ideal? I would love a place like that for all these dogs. Absolutely. But like, I think people expect that. And the reality is that's not always the case. Like if there was 25 million more organizations like yourself, yeah, maybe we'd have a shot. So I know you're kind of a unicorn and I know there's others, but it's a rarity that there's these sanctuary places with people of your expert level to be able to help these dogs. But like, aside from that thought process, when do you feel, so if families dealing with a potential dangerous dog, what options should they consider? Like, what is your advice if you had an email from somebody like this? Like, what would you say to someone in that
it's
that's a tough one.
It is a tough one, and it's sad to say I never have a good answer for these people because
agree. Yep. That's a fair answer, though.
The biggest thing I can say is when you see the problem, don't wait. Do not wait. Like when it starts, because by the time you've contacted me, that means you saw the problem months ago and it has gotten huge. Now it's a problem. Now the dog's attacked somebody, or now the dog's shoved away in a kennel because it's not good enough to be out around the kids or around people. and that's just making it even worse for when it is around people. So the moment issues happen, you know, it's needed to be somebody to get help. But that also goes along with the whole thing of not knowing what behavior and training is. Like maybe you did catch it in the beginning, but you went to a basic obedience trainer, and then that's where it becomes up to the trainers is to say, I can't help you with this. The trainers need to stop, stop with your basic obedience bullshit. Just get that shit out of here. Let, the people who actually specifically work on behavior, let them do that.
Right.
Like I Happy Gilmore shit on my behavior side all the time, but I'm still doing more than that basic obedience will ever do. And then a lot of it too is not being able to afford it, and that's where like a big thing, like I've gone to people's houses for free. I've done things for free.
Yep.
And I continue to do them just because it's, you gotta just, all you can do on our social media is throw out information that's free, and you can learn a lot from yours, from mine, from Rachel's page. Like you can learn so much, and it's free, and it's guiding these people to those places to where they can see it, to where they know where to look, and avoiding the places where they shouldn't be looking. The whole like my dog's got issues, we're going to PetSmart training. Get the fuck out of here with that. PetSmart should know better and say, PetSmart should be like, this is not for us.
That's not our area of expertise.
But when I think if you have to surrender a dog, that's exactly what you were talking about, this magical place. People need to get out of the head. There's not that magical place. There's not. Sanctuaries are not nice places. There's probably several of them that are, like you're saying, but they're not. They're terrible. They're you got to think these are just humans taking care of dogs just because they have to mean they're good people. A lot of these dogs are shoved away in a dark hole, and they get fed and they get to go eat, and that's about it. But they're not living their best life. And I hate to say this, but maybe that dog that's going to that sanctuary probably should be euthanized so it doesn't have to live through that hell of being abused. Now there is a sanctuary up in, I want to say Minnesota or something like that. But that dog has to like other dogs, and these dogs free range. It's crazy cool up there. I don't know much about it, except for we know a dog that had to go up there. And they're great. Now there's another sanctuary in Wisconsin that did very, very well with some other dogs, and they actually ended up getting them adopted and whatnot.
Wow.
But then you hear other stories about that sanctuary, you always hear stuff about it, and that's where
it's hard to know.
It's very hard. So for me, and to have all the dogs with me, like you get to see what my dogs do. 100%. You get to see them out there. You get to see if they learn something. You get to see when I'm too tired to take care of them. They still get out, they still eat, they still spend time, but you get to see what they do. And then you get to see like how I feel about it. Like I'm just done. I'm, you get to see everything. So you just have to get it out of your head that there's a magical place for your dog that you need to, give away, or, RJ is a prime example. RJ and Saint are prime examples of being lucky. Like RJ, RJ was an example of biting a kid in the face. And this dog was in a car with nowhere to go. So it was either I took him then, or he's going to be euthanized. And the guy didn't want to do that. The guy bought 2 or 3 nights in a hotel room just so he could keep RJ alive long enough to see if I could help him. And I don't know why I took RJ. I really don't. I just connected with him. I felt him, and maybe partially somebody I know reached out to me about him, and I just felt the need to look into it, and it was sad, and now that I know RJ, do I think that he doesn't like kids? No, I actually think he loves kids. I think he's got noise aversion. He's aversive noises are what trigger him. And this kid was getting tickled by grandma, and the kid made a loud, weird noise, and he boom.
Yeah.
But, so he got lucky. He got lucky to come to me. He got lucky to come to a great place, and he lives a great life. Like, he has a great life. He's lazy, but has a ton of he's got his own room. It's filled with 30 bones. Got Betty Bones in there. It's got a couch. It's got a dog bed and blankets. Like, he's got his own room, and it's
I love that.
he'll sit there and whine to go back to his room. He's a
He's
weird
like,
dog.
let me go back to my palace.
Yeah, it's like,
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna go back in here.
But that's the thing is, if you have to do it, you have to do it.
Right.
And there's no glorious way to do it. There's no fun in it. Your dog's probably not going to go to a better place than where you are.
Mm-hmm.
Where your dog's at right now, it's probably not going to go to a better home or a better place.
I think another, I mean, I definitely, it's a sensitive discussion for everybody. I mean, the professionals and the pet parents included. And I think, I think that to sum all of that up, I think what people have to really weigh out is the quality of life. It's like, all right, and that goes for every party, like the family's quality of life for keeping the dog and the dog's quality of life for keeping the dog versus the other options, whether that's surrender, euthanasia, if they're really dangerous or whatever. And I think I also want to say to people, like, if you decide to do whatever you decide to do, I try to take the shame away from all of it, because we can only do so much. We can only bend so far to do certain things or to not, if we have a dog with severe issues or something really horrific happened. And at the end of the day, just like our dogs, we're all doing the best that we can. And so, I just wanted to end that question on that, because, quality of life all the way around is the main thing to consider and to weigh out when you're making those decisions, in my opinion. So, quality of life issue.
I do. When there's the quality of life in the home, and if people are getting attacked, that's one thing. And us is for what we do, and trainers and all that stuff, we got to look at that, and we got to try to deal with it and help them. Whether it's providing them with a place to go or a phone number, or maybe a shelter that the dog is going to have a chance, fine, so be it.
Sure.
Or maybe it's offering some training, whatever it's going to be. Right. But to the guy that reaches out to rehome the dog because his neighbors have a dog and the dog can't get along with his neighbor's dog.
Right. Or he's digging. Yeah. Or he's exactly. I'm like, all right, get the hell out of here. Please don't email me.
You're just pawning your problems off on other people.
Yeah. Now. Like digging the garden or whatever up. Like, I want to give the dog away. It's like, oh my God, I think
the dog
sometimes.
Don't listen to me.
Yeah, I think people sometimes maybe they shouldn't have a dog. Like there's those situations where you're like, maybe a fish or something else might be more appropriate. This stuff, that's just normal digging. Like that happens with dogs. That's what they do.
Natural behavior.
Yeah. Like it's like complaining a toddler's like pooping their diaper or whatever. It's like part of having a kid. So thank you for that distinction, because, that's one thing. And then there's also like the other side, the darker side of like, all right, you don't really need to be giving your dog away here, having this talk.
Yeah. You're just being lazy.
Yes, exactly. And, that's where I'm like, maybe a dog's not for you, and that's okay. It's just maybe having a dog is not your cup of tea.
But do the dog a favor and don't get one.
Exactly. Like have somebody else that might do better with it. I always ask kind of like, I think a lot of dog topics have myths or what we would think is like a misunderstanding or a common misconception, because there's so much of it in the dog space, as we said earlier, with the internet and pages online and just YouTube, everything. Not that it's all bad, but unfortunately a lot of it is. So what do you feel is a common misunderstanding that people have when it comes to dog with behavioral challenges? Ending it with a heavy hitter here.
I
feel like there's so many, but if there's a one that like sticks out to you where you just feel like people just aren't thinking of it in the right way, or misunderstand it, or view it in a way that
I think it's the big misconception in that aspect for your average person or average household is that you need to fix the dog. Like you can't fix a dog, or you need to have that dog trained. No, I mean, you can do some behavioral training, but you can't train that dog to be fixed. It's just not there.
Right.
Whatever that behavioral issue is, it is there for life. You can definitely do a lot of things to make it, not happen again. Some dogs, it might never happen again, but it is always there for life. It is always potential. So a big, misconception is that you can fix every dog. And then another big, thing is not every dog is, or all dogs are good. No bad dog.
Yeah.
That's another big misconception. No, there are some bad dogs out there. I have some of them. Like, that's just not how it is. I wish it was. Trust me, I would never want to euthanize a dog. I would never want to, but getting the point across that we can come and help you with your dog, but you have to do the work. Oh yeah, that's another big misconception. Having your dog trained and getting it back and it's done.
Yeah, it isn't like a car you went and got it fixed at the mechanic and now they dropped it off and it's all good to go.
Like, I'm going to help you with your dog, but you still have to do the work. That's Absolutely. A big thing. It's another misconception is that I come in, I do the work, and you can still sit on the couch and eat Doritos. Yep. No, that's not it at all. Yeah,
I'm glad that you pointed those out because again, whether it's a behavioral issue or you're training your dog on coming when called outside, it's always the same, which is, I use the analogy of like, we're like personal trainers and, I'm going to show up, I'll show you how to work out, how much you need to work out and what to eat for the week. And if you sit on the couch and eat Doritos, we're not going to get that 6-pack abs, which is what everyone really wants their dog to be like, that level there. That's the hope of perfection. And it's like, all right, well, we need to do all that work and we still might not get the 6-pack. We might just get a little better, So like, I think bringing down the reality of what the work is you can always get it better, more manageable, in my opinion, because most people aren't using management or they're not. You could get it more manageable, and with training and behavioral training, get it way, like you said, some dogs way better, and some dogs might not be way better, it might just be a little better. And I think to that too, when your dog has a behavioral issue, and you said this, and I want to restate it again, like. It's never cured. This isn't a disease we're going to be quote unquote curing or finding something that's going to be gone and eradicated. It's a lifestyle. It's once that card is played in the deck, we can remove the card for that moment, but that card is in the deck and it could be played at any moment. If everything stacks up correctly, it could happen. We hope it doesn't. It might not ever, but that card's in there. We need to be very aware that card is still in there. We don't just have it go away forever where it's like, now I have no worries. My dog's going to do great no matter what. I'm like, no, it'll be better, hopefully, but we always need to be aware and always be ready to combat potentially whatever the dog's dealing with happening again. And that's just part of life when you have a dog that has behavioral issues. So I'm glad that we got to say that one.
Timing is another thing. Like, some dogs, you can work on their behavioral issue in a week and you're doing great. Yeah. Some dogs, as an individual, it could be a year. Yeah. It could be 2 years. Yep. And that's the thing. Another, big thing for training and for you going to somebody's house or them looking for something. Yeah. Lower your standards because you're looking for your dog to be like good. You know what your dog wants. You know what you want your dog to do. So you're expecting that within a week or 2 weeks or a month. Like, no, look at your dog as an individual and learn, look at your dog like your kids or like other humans. We all learn at our own pace and dogs learn at their own pace. So I don't know why people have set this they expect this from their dogs or other dogs instantly, but yet they don't have that same mentality for their kids or for other humans. Like, get out of here. Yeah. Get out of here with that shit, Yeah.
I do think
that's another big.
Yeah, I think I always say like have, I think it's like a version of another quote I heard a while ago, but it's like have low expectations on your dog and high expectations on yourself.
Yes.
In like the nicest way, not to be like your dog sucks, have no expectations, but like, but again, you're going into something new or you're going into something that you're trying to get better, having a low bar, it's only up from there versus starting up here and you're constantly disappointed. So I think that's a fair thing to remind people because, little progress, something very, very minuscule to the dog is a big deal. Where for us, it's like, all right, he looked away for 2 seconds away from the big friggin' whoop. And it's like, well, I mean, to the dog, that's a big deal because normally he's lunging, wanting to kill this thing. Like, so that's good. And I think as trainers, we're aware of those little micro successes. And I don't blame people. They're not trainers. They don't know, and I empathize with them. but as trainers, I'm always like pointing that out, like, hey, that 2 seconds is a big deal to this dog.
Yes.
You know, we need to be aware of that and hold on to it and be like, ooh, success, because that's where it starts. That's laying the foundation there to some improvement. I always go, we're going for less shitty. That's the goal.
Yeah. Yeah.
If it's less shitty than before you started training, you're okay. You're doing all right.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is trying to get them to see what you're going after. Like once they can see it, then they can really work on things. But you know, and I always remind them too, like, hey, it's okay. Like, don't even expect to remember everything we talked about today. You have my information. We can talk at any time. You're not going to bug me, but I'm expecting you to forget half of this, at least more than half. It'll be okay. You know, we're going to work on a couple of things, and and then they start remembering things and they get it. And then they text you or call you and say, hey, this is going well. This is great. I'm like, I really didn't do anything.
We get that positive reinforcement ourselves. It's always nice.
Yeah.
Give your dog trainer some positive reinforcement. We always appreciate it. So I love that. I love that. And it sounds like you're doing really awesome work. And I just want to say, from me to you, like, I really, really appreciate what you're doing. This is not an easy gig, and
no,
it takes a real one to take that on and have, you know, a house and people in that house dedicated to helping these dogs that obviously need it. So I just want to say thank you for that, and for coming on to talk about all of this. This was super helpful.
And thank you for like your account, your platforms. Like, man, you know, there's not a whole lot out there. I mean, you have a solid, there's a solid 10 that give out, maybe a solid 15. We'll go with a solid 15. And we all know, because we all follow each other, you know, and watch each other's shit. But, like, you know, like you put out some simple, extremely valuable information. You know, Rachel puts out some extremely valuable information that's very simple. And then that one I have briefly talked to, but the Toby Project, or I cannot think.
Oh yeah, Dog Mom. So it's Dog Mom.
She puts out a great deal of, you know, information that's useful, you know. And then you got your other accounts like that get into those words that we don't, you know, we don't talk
like
about.
The deep stuff. Like I keep it, you know, informative, but I try to keep it at a basic, where anyone could understand kind of thing. But I know you do that.
Yeah. All these accounts just to help people get through it. Especially the people who can't afford it. You can gain so much information just by watching us. And it's I'm glad that people like you and I, and you know, I'm glad we do it just for that, you know?
Yeah, I appreciate that. Thank you. Yeah. And I feel the same way. Like, I feel like if I, you know, I haven't always been in a position to have the time and energy and all that stuff, where now, you know, at this point in my career, I'm not running around the state of New Jersey all day where I'm like exhausted, where now I can carve out to do that. And I think also, like, putting out content takes work and time and effort. And it's like, what we're doing is hey, I'll toot our own horn here. I like this. Take a second, because I normally don't, you know, we're so busy, we don't take time. Like my whole goal is to try to help people that might not be able to. Training's not cheap. I'm not cheap, like, to be hired one-on-one, and, you know, and that's okay. But not everybody can do it. And then people might still want something to take away. And with these accounts out there, and thank God the magic of Instagram, and I mean, us meeting through Instagram as well. Like, I'm very thankful for Instagram, but, you know, all these platforms, there is junk there, but there is some gems. So, you know, I'm glad that people can access these things. And on that note, I want you to plug your page and let those listening know where they can find you and the work that you're doing, and to support the work that you're doing as well.
Falkor and Rescue Friends is the name of my organization, and it's all Instagram. I don't do the TikTok too much. It's just too much for me. The Facebook, it has a Facebook, but mostly everything's on Instagram.
Cool.
But Falkor and Rescue Friends is on all the major platforms like that. And all content hits Instagram, because that's where I'm at. It's where it's easier. It's more fun. But, you know, stuff does hit Facebook. Some stuff does hit TikTok. But I can't keep up, like you said, keeping up with all these platforms.
It's a part-time job, or full-time job almost in and of itself.
It is.
Doing all of that.
You catch yourself feeling bad about not putting content up for people, you need to step away for a minute.
I know. I've gotten better with it in the beginning, like a couple years ago, much harder on myself because,
Yeah,
I feel like as trainers, maybe not everybody, but most of the ones I've ever met, we're very giving. Like we want
yeah,
to provide, we want to educate, we're really educators. I mean, that's really I mean, at the end of the day, what it really is. So I'm always trying to educate and put it out. So yeah. And then I'm like, you need a social media break. And then I just take
yeah,
one, I come back refreshed and we get back into it. So, oh yeah, I feel like any people putting out content is going to feel like that at some point. You have to do some self-care, which
yeah. You have to
regardless is important.
have to. You have to learn how to not care anymore.
Yes, you're like, whatever, I'll get to it. Absolutely. Hey, I appreciate your time, Steve. I appreciate
Yeah,
everything
thank
you're
you.
doing. Thank you for coming on. I'm excited to put this out
Yeah,
and for letting everyone know where they can reach you. And
awesome.
as always, for those listening, treat yourself and treat your dogs.